I'm back again. FIFA started in 1904 and it was founded by 7 nations in Europe. Those nations were Belgium, France, Denmark, Netherlands, Switzerland, Sweden, and Spain. Now, with FIFA, to be a FIFA member, you have to also be a member of one of the 6 different regions' own football committees. So, for example, if you're part of Europe, you must be a member of the UEFA. So then you could be a member of FIFA. In South America, it's the CONMEBOL. In North America, Central America, and the Caribbean, it's the CONCACAF. In Africa, it's the CAF. In Asia, it's the AFC. And the Oceania is the OFC. So if you're one of those 6, you're one in those regions and you're one of them, then you most likely will become a FIFA member eventually. Now, some countries, geographically, they may be in a region, they might be in Asia, but they won't actually do World Cup qualifiers or their region's championships in that region. For example, Australia, closer towards the Oceania, they don't actually play their games, World Cup qualifiers in that region. Instead, they play in the AFC, the Asia region. They once used to play their games in the OFC, but since 2006, they now qualify for the World Cup through the AFC's playoffs, the qualifying system. Israel's another country. Originally, they would have played in the AFC because it's in Asia, but they no longer play in the AFC. And actually, at one point, was also playing the OFC, but since 1992, they started to qualify for the World Cup as a UEFA member. Also, in South America, both Guyana and Suriname, both South American countries, but they qualify for the World Cup through the CONCACAF qualifiers. Now, there are different reasons why a nation geographically will play their games, their World Cup qualifiers, or play in a regional tournament outside of where they naturally are. Politically, probably the main reason why. But regardless, this does happen. Now, FIFA's main goal is to spread football around the world, no matter the different cultures a country has, no matter the financial ability of that nation. Football, FIFA's main goal is to spread football around the world. FIFA has a president. FIFA's current president is Gianni Infantino. He has been president of FIFA since 2016. He successor to Sepp Blatter, who is one of the longest serving FIFA presidents. FIFA has always had a president from the start. The very first president was a man named Robert Guerin, who was a French journalist from a paper called Le Matin. He helped bring together all 7 founding members of FIFA, and under his leadership for 2 years, a further 8 members was also a part of FIFA. Robert Guerin was only 28 when he became the president of FIFA. He was elected in 1904 at the very first FIFA Congress. His successor was an Englishman named Daniel Burley Walpole, who happened to have a longer tenure as FIFA president, starting from 1906 to 1918. Sadly, he passed away in office at the age of 66. During his time as the FIFA president, Nations outside of Europe became members of FIFA, such as South Africa, Argentina, Chile, and United States of America. His time as president was interrupted because of the First World War in 1914. Also, under his leadership, the laws of the game of football was established, focusing on the English model of football. Also, he helped organize the first major international football tournament, the Olympics in 1908, which was in London. So, yes, that's a little information about the very first two presidents of FIFA. Just as I said earlier, FIFA started with 7 members. The founding members: Belgium, Denmark, France, Netherlands, Sweden, Spain, and Switzerland. Later on, other members from Europe started to join in the 1900s and the 1910s, such as Austria, Czechoslovakia, England, Finland, Germany, Hungary, Italy, Norway, and then again in the 1910s, Luxembourg, Northern Ireland, Russia, Scotland, Wales. Eventually, teams from outside of Europe started to join, as I mentioned, such as South Africa, Argentina, Canada, USA, and Chile. South Africa being the very first African nation to join, Argentina, Chile being the first teams from South America to join, and Canada and the USA being the first teams from North America to join. Eventually, in the 1920s and so on, other nations started to join all around Asia now. Teams such as Thailand and Japan joined in the 1920s, and so on. Until now, FIFA has 211 members at this point, more members than the UN recognizes as nations. Okay, so now I'm going to quickly mention each founding member and their success during the World Cup or during the Euro, since the first 7 happened to be nations from Europe, part of the UEFA as well. So, France, just start off with France. They're arguably the most successful team out their founding members. They have won 2 World Cups, hosted 2 World Cups as well. They've hosted the most Euros and has won 2 Euros themselves. So arguably the most successful team. Also, they were one of 4 European nations to make the trip to Uruguay to compete at the very first World Cup. The other nation from Europe and from founding nation, Belgium, was the other team to also make the trip to Uruguay in 1930. Belgium themselves, though they haven't hosted a World Cup, they have hosted the Euros 2 times, and their best performance at a World Cup was finishing 3rd in the 2018 World Cup in Russia. Now, Belgium, I mentioned, they have hosted the Euros 2 times. One of the times they hosted the Euros was in 2000. They co-hosted it with another founding member, that is the Netherlands. The Netherlands have won a Euros in 1988. They also happen to have been the runner-ups for 3 World Cups, being the nation that have been the runners-up for the most World Cups without winning it. They were the runners-up in the 1974 and 78 World Cups, where they lost to both host nations, Germany in 1974 and Argentina in 1978. They also lost to Spain in 2010 at the World Cup in South Africa. The 2010 World Cup final between Spain and Netherlands was the very first World Cup in 30 plus years that was guaranteed a new winner. Funny enough, the 1978 World Cup final between Netherlands and Argentina was the last time at that time that there was a guaranteed winner, a new winner for the World Cup. Since then, there hasn't been a World Cup final between a nation that hasn't won the World Cup at least once. The two World Cups after 2010, 2014 World Cup was another final between Argentina and Germany. And 2018, on the other hand, was between France and Croatia. Croatia hasn't won a World Cup before, but again, France has. So again, wasn't guaranteed a winner. And the most recent World Cup, 2022, was between Argentina and France, who both at the time happened to have won a World Cup at least twice. Like I mentioned with Spain also happened to be a founding nation. They have won the World Cup once, like I mentioned, in 2010. They also happen to have hosted the World Cup once themselves in 1982. They currently are the most successful European team in the Euros, most recently winning this year's Euros finals against England. They happen to have won a further 3, being the most successful team in Europe when it at least comes to the Euros. Spain are also the only team to actually retain the Euros. No other team has actually managed to do that. Spain will also be co-hosting the 2030 World Cup with both Portugal and Morocco. Denmark is another one of the 7 founding members of FIFA. Their best at a World Cup is in 1998, where they finished in the quarterfinals. They also won the Euros in 1992. At that time, they actually came in as a replacement for Yugoslavia. So in 1992, surprise entry, and they actually managed to win that win that Euros. Switzerland, another founding member. Also, I mentioned earlier that the headquarters for FIFA happen to be in Zurich, Switzerland. Switzerland hosted the World Cup in 1954. At this time, it was the first World Cup hosted back in Europe after World War II. And their best at a World Cup, they happen to have finished in the quarterfinals, both in 1934 and in 1938. They also co-hosted the 2008 Euros with Austria. They've also reached the quarterfinals of that tournament in the 2021 Euros, which was originally supposed to be in 2020, and this current Euros in 2024. And finally, Sweden. Sweden has hosted the World Cup in 1958. They managed to reach the final at that World Cup, but lost to Brazil 5-2. They also hosted the Euros in 1992, where they managed to reach the semi-finals of that Euros. So that's a quick summary of the 7 founding members of FIFA. A quick summary of how FIFA was created and the very first 2 presidents of FIFA. Further on, I'll be discussing other nations that have been part of FIFA, and I'll be doing a more in-depth video of each founding member of FIFA and all the other nations that eventually joined FIFA later on. Thanks for watching, listening. The next video I'll be doing will be about the World Cup in 1930 in Uruguay, which I believe is FIFA's greatest achievement. I'll be discussing all 13 nations that competed at that World Cup and the journey that they made to get there, and how the World Cup was created, the idea of it. That's the next video that I'll be discussing. So, thanks again for listening.